Welcome to Scott Bryson Beyond the Service. Tonight, we're going to talk about some safety tips again. I know some of you guys really enjoy that, and some of you are like, dude, not again. Hey, it's my podcast. It's what we're doing. No, I'm just joking, but we're going to talk about some things that are pretty common sense, obviously. Again, we talk about this all the time on here. We're keeping it simple, believe in the KISS principle. We believe in being situationally aware. And, I want to help people if I can. Do I have it all figured out? Absolutely not. But I've been in some type of law enforcement for, right at 30 years. So I feel like I know what I'm talking about. I jokingly say this all the time. Like, if you want me to rebuild your transmission or build you a deck, I'm not the guy. But if you want me to help you stay alive in a situation, then I feel like I can help you out a little bit. So let's just talk about some common sense things. Let's talk about being followed. Have you ever been followed? I have. It's very uncomfortable. It's nerve-wracking, actually. But for me, it's not. It wasn't as scary. There was one time that was really scary, which I've talked about on here twice recently about when I was in Amman, Jordan. That sucked. But when I'm in the States and I'm running around in New York City or DC area, anywhere I've lived, it happened to me in London. Like I didn't feel as worried because I usually had a friend with me, if you know what I mean. Not in London, but the other places. I don't leave home without it, and I don't recommend that you should either. Public service announcement: don't leave home without your friend because you may need it. I hope you don't, but I'd rather have it not need it than need it not have it. You know what I mean? That's just kind of the way I do things. But anyway, let's talk about being followed. Let's talk about in a car first. We're going to talk about on foot, and we'll talk about in a car. So let's say you're in your vehicle and you're minding your business and you're going down the road and you're in a city, even if you're not being followed. Okay, and this is just the old cop coming out in me because if you didn't know, police officers and sheriff's departments and things like that, they have zones, right? Sector zones, whatever you call it, I don't know, but you have an area of responsibility, and in that area, you are responsible for doing the streets. So you always need to know the street you're on or the road you're on, and you need to know what the cross street is, because if communications is calling you and trying to give you a call, back in the day, a million years ago, I would always answer up with like my cross street, like, hey, they're calling me. And then I would say where I am, so they would know if I was the closest unit, even though it was my zone, there might be another car closer to than me. But nowadays they have GPS. All the cars have GPS on them, so they already know where you are in real time anyway. So you don't have to answer the radio that way. That's just the old school thing that we used to do. I don't think people do that anymore, but it doesn't matter. You still need to know where you are. The point I'm making is you need to know where you are. And that's what helped me learn to do this, is when I was a police officer, I always knew where I was all the time because it's paramount, right? And especially if you're in trouble and you need help, you're on the radio screaming for help and they don't know where to come. It's a little different now, like I said, with GPS, but back in the day, you need to know where you are. And even though you're not a cop or in the military and you're giving out coordinates and stuff like that, you need to know where you are. So I would recommend that you always kind of know what road you're on. Am I on Highway 29? Oh, yeah, I am. Am I going northbound or southbound? Because that's a thing too, right? Oh, I'm on I-85. Again, am I going northbound? Am I going southbound? Am I going east? Am I going west? Whatever road you're on, you need to know which direction of travel you're on as well. You also need to know what mile marker you're at, thereabouts, because when you're out on the interstate, you're not going to have cross streets as much, right? You might say, oh, I'm at exit 33. Okay, that's cool. Or I just passed exit 33. You don't have the state of South Carolina memorized when you're on the way to the beach. I get that, but you kind of need to know about where you are, right? So in case you're being followed, you can get on 911 and call for help and tell the boys in blue or brown or whatever color they're wearing these days, where you are. Hey, this is what's happening. I'm in such and such kind of car. color, make, model, your tag number, if you know it, you should. This person, the suspect vehicle is this color. It looks like it's occupied one time or two times or three times. All these are details. This is situational awareness. You can't just call up 911 and go, I'm being followed. I need help. Well, that doesn't tell the dispatcher jack crap. So you gotta calm down. Like I like to tell people, you work the problem, you don't let it work you, right? So we're gonna work the problem, and then after the fact, if you have an adrenaline up, which you probably will, then you can freak out a little bit and cry or laugh or do whatever it is you do. Have somebody bring you a Coke, get your blood sugar leveled out. I don't know. Everybody's different, but you have to be able to tell people what you need, or they can't help you. Like there's nothing worse than listening to the radio and listening for a fellow officer call for help, but you don't know where he or she's at because they can't articulate it. And that's happened many, many times over the years, not just to me, but to every cop out there watching this knows exactly what I'm talking about. Same thing in the military. You got to be able to give coordinates, right? You got to be able to, especially if you're calling in an airstrike, you need to be able to make sure your coordinates are correct. You don't want to get yourself blown up. That's a whole different can of worms, but you get what I'm saying. So if if you're in a car and you feel like you're being followed or something, maybe it's a road, maybe you're being followed. Maybe it's not, maybe you're not being paranoid. Maybe you got road rage. Somebody's road rage with you and they're flipping you the bird or cursing you or whatever. Don't be a hero. Don't be embarrassed. Like, call 911. Get help on the way, but know where you are. Be able to vector the guys in so that they can help you. And it's just like attention to detail is key, right? We talked about that. The other thing we could talk about briefly is when you're walking. Let's say you're on foot or you're, I don't know. Yeah, probably on foot's probably the best example. You're in a busy city. One time, I'll tell us a quick story. My wife and I had just moved to London, and the kids were at school, and we had to go down to the embassy to do something. Who knows? But we got on the tube. That's what they call the subway over there. They call it the tube, and we got on the tube, and I think our house was two or three stops from the embassy stop. Super short ride, and we noticed a guy on the train, which is normal because the car was full of people. And noticed this individual in the car, didn't think much about it. Like, oh, there's a guy, there's a girl, whatever. There's a dude. We noticed him because he was, reading the paper like they do. Back then, there was actually a lot of people read magazines and paper, not people, their faces weren't stuck in their phones, but this guy was reading the newspaper, which kind of stuck out to me because that's what you see all these spy movies. The guy, like, he's reading the paper, right? Okay, whatever. Just noticed it. Didn't think much about it. Went to the embassy, did our thing. A couple of hours later, we go back home, get back on the tube, and that same dude's in the same car. Now, what are the chances of the same guy doing whatever he was out doing, being on the same train as us in the same car? I mean, come on. I don't believe in coincidences any more than you probably do. That brother was following us. I don't know why. I think it's probably because we had just moved there. And if I had to guess, it was probably a British person, probably an MI5 or MI6 guy. I don't know that. I'll never know it. I don't really care because nothing happened, but I noticed it, right? And so that's just, and even my wife noticed it. And so I'm like, whoever he was, his tradecraft needed a little work, but you have to just pay attention, right? And I'm like, okay. So when we got off the train, do you think I walked straight to my house? Of course not. Of course not. We did an evasive route. We went, I don't know what we did, like went to the bakery or went to the coffee shop and went to, I don't know. We made a couple of stops. The point is you just don't go straight home, right? We were walking, so we didn't just take him. I mean, he probably already knew where we lived anyway, but that's, let's say he wasn't a military, let's say he wasn't an operative. He was just, maybe he was a thug, which I don't think he was, but he could have been, right? And he wanted to rob us or mug us or break into our house, like whatever. You don't just go home. You have to do some evasive maneuvers. And you guys probably, most people watching this probably already know that. None of this is rocket science. But it never hurts to remind people if you're being followed or worried you're being followed or you know you're being harassed, hey, here's another thing you do. Drive straight to the sheriff's office. Drive to the courthouse. Drive to the DMV. If it's daylight, right? Day hour, work hours. Go to the police departments or 24 hours. Drive to a fire department. Fire departments, police departments, hospitals, they're 24/7, 365. Go to a place that you know that there are people at, right? Probably not going to pull up to a church parking lot at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. There ain't nobody there. You pull up to a fire station, there's going to be mostly dudes there. And if you're being followed by a dude, then he's probably going to hit feet because there's 7 or 8 guys standing there. Anyway, food for thought.